Hey, this is Kevin with Division in America. In this presentation, we'll take a quick look at ranked choice voting and how it works. When it comes to political division in our country, one problem is that over 80% of U.S. congressional districts are safe or non-competitive, with the same party, Republican or Democrat, winning the seat in every election, which, as we'll see in a minute, contributes to political polarization in our country. Ranked choice voting is designed to address the problem. To illustrate, let's take a numerical example of a congressional district with 100,000 voters, with 60% being Republican and 40% being Democrat. With such a solid majority, this is a safe Republican district. The example could just as easily apply to a safe Democratic district. Suppose 6 candidates are running for this congressional seat, 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans, and in the top table, let's rank the candidates' political views from left to right. And let's also show the political preferences of the district's voters by showing how many voters prefer each of the candidates. In this example, we'll assume the voters' preferences are fairly evenly distributed among the candidates. Now in the middle table, let's see how things would turn out in our current system in the primary election. Since turnout for primary elections is always lighter than the general election, and is dominated by party loyalists whose preferences are further to the right for Republicans and to the left for Democrats, we see the Democrats choose their far left candidate and the Republicans choose their far right candidate. So when we get to the general election as shown in the bottom table, the winner is the far right Republican, which isn't reflective of the majority of voters. And when that person serves in Congress, their policies will be geared toward the far-right voters they need to win the next election. And again, the same goes for safe Democratic districts, which shows how our current system leads to political polarization in Congress. Now let's see how things would turn out in that same district using ranked choice voting with all 6 candidates running at the same time, and where each voter casts a single ballot that ranks that voter's preferences for all the candidates 1 through 6. If no candidate is favored by over 50% of the voters, the candidate with the fewest first-place votes is eliminated and the election moves to an instant second round where the votes of the eliminated candidate are redistributed to the remaining candidates according to the preferences of the voters whose candidate just got eliminated. Here we're showing just the number of first-place votes for each candidate in each round, since that's what determines which candidates move on to the next round. So in this example, we see in the top table the far left Democrat received the fewest first-place votes in round 1, so they're eliminated and we move to round 2, where the votes of the voters who preferred the far left Democrat are redistributed to the remaining 5 candidates according to those voters' preferences. We'll assume all 12,000 voters who preferred the far left Democrat had the middle left Democrat as their second choice. So those votes now become first place votes for the middle left Democrat in round 2, where now the moderate Democrat has the fewest first place votes, so they're eliminated and we move to round 3, where the 15,000 voters who preferred the moderate Democrat have their votes redistributed to the remaining 4 candidates according to those voters' preferences. We'll assume 10,000 of those voters had the middle Democrat as their next choice, while 5,000 had the moderate Republican as their next choice. If we continue this process, making reasonable assumptions about how votes are redistributed each round, and we continue until one of the candidates gets over 50% of the first place votes, we see in the bottom table the winner ends up being the moderate Republican. Hopefully this example shows how ranked choice voting gives all voters at least some say in the election of candidates. Even if a voter's preferred candidate is eliminated in any given round, the voters' preferences move on to following rounds and help to determine the eventual winner. And because of this, the winner will typically be more moderate and more representative of all the voters than we're seeing with our current system. Ranked choice voting could also be used, for example, in presidential elections. Imagine a presidential primary system that produced, say, 4 candidates for the general election, where the winner is chosen using ranked choice voting. It would work in the same way as the example we just looked at. Unfortunately, ranked choice voting will be hard to implement on a broad scale in our country since many politicians are against it, and in fact, 13 states have already banned ranked choice voting. And finally, while ranked choice voting is a desirable voting process, it does nothing to address the underlying causes of the divisions we're currently experiencing in our country, something addressed in other videos on this channel.